let's get into some murder.
Welcome to Mark's
Red Rum.
Murder
Red Rum.
Mystery
Red Rum.
Monday.
And the woman who squires us through it all. Courtney! What's up, Courtney? What up with you, Courtney? Courtney.
Hi. There we go.
Yeah, there you go, Courtney.
I was backstage, unable to defend myself.
Well, I don't know,
No. I just on the Army Hammer point, I've actually been following House of Effie, and House of Effie is an account for the woman who was violently sexually assaulted and raped by Army Hammer, and she truly is a survivor and someone that brings to light some of the atrocious crimes that are happening to women in and around that. So I've been following her for a couple of years, and I heard about this new information around the LADA. I think is looking into charges against Army Hammer from Effie.
So it's no laughing matter, is your point?
No, and I'm gonna get canceled before I even.
No, I didn't mean to say you were a fan of the documentary, which you felt laid out. But I said you were a fan of Army Hammer. That was a mistake. I misspoke.
I would say if it's not at all a laughing matter, it's because of the absurdity of I mean, it's so outlandish and so crazy. I don't mean the allegations are absurd. I just mean the way they're saying he is. It's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable, you know?
Yeah, but apparently it's unbelievable, but apparently believable. You know. So, Courtney, thank you for addressing that.
Yes. I'm not here to talk about him.
No, you're not. I believe you're dealing with a very high-profile case that took place recently, right in the city.
Yes, I know. I'm not nervous, but I'm a little nervous for this one because it is a murder that happened in San Francisco, and I know that this is the hometown of many listeners and fans of the Mark Thompson Show. So we'll be covering the murder of Bob Lee.
Okay.
So most people have probably heard of this murder, but I'm going to walk through what happened the day and the night of his murder, a little bit about who Bob Lee is.
I would just say this before you start, that I thought this was a fascinating case in which everybody jumped to conclusions. Yeah. Because San Francisco is this violent, lawless place, and this is what I'm telling you about, and those progressives with their, and that's the reason, there are not enough cops, or they're whatever.
No,
cops
it's
can't
true.
do anything. And so as a result, everybody had their own narrative that sort of, it seemed to fall into that. And detectives kept their mouths shut during it all while they were pursuing the investigation. So please proceed. I think it's a fascinating case from several perspectives. Yeah,
that is true. And I'm a fan of the All In podcast. And on Friday, they tape on Thursday, I believe. On Friday, they addressed some outreach that had happened by several news outlets about their saying that San Francisco is a crime-ridden city, and that, but in their a little bit, not defense, but they did say, until we know what happened, we don't know what happened. But yes, that is. You
use them as an example because that was the conversation that was being had by a lot of people. So anyway, please
continue. Exactly. So Bob Lee, who was 43, was the chief product officer of cryptocurrency startup MobileCoin when he died. He recently located to Miami, but was often in San Francisco. Actually, his ex-wife, and his two daughters lived in and around San Francisco. So on the day and the night of the crime, and this is if you're watching, this is a image of Bob Lee, and that is his Twitter profile. That's his different positions that he's had, companies that he's participated in or founded, which includes CashApp, which is owned by Square, now Block, which is Jack Dorsey's company. So on the day of April 3rd, this is all detailed by a witness. So someone who was with Bob on the day before the crime happened, but he is anonymous, or she is anonymous. So this person is the name has not been given publicly. At 3:30 p.m., Bob and Nema's sister, Kazar, so Nema Momeni is the man that they arrested on Thursday, April 13th. And Kazar Momeni is Nema's sister. So at 3:30 on April 3rd, Bob and Nema's sister Kazar were hanging out at someone's apartment. Bob's friends come and meet up with them. And a few hours later, Bob and his friends decide to leave the apartment, ask Kazar to join them, but she declines. So Bob and his friends go to his hotel, which is the one hotel in San Francisco, to continue to hang out. Sometime in that afternoon or early evening, Nema Momeni, the man who was arrested on Thursday as a suspect in this crime, FaceTimes Bob and asks him if he was doing drugs with his sister, Kazar, or if anything inappropriate had happened while they were hanging out. And Bob vehemently denies this and says nothing inappropriate has happened. Now, the witness that was with Bob attested to this conversation. He was there when this happened. They continue to hang out until after midnight. Now, some point in the evening, Nema goes to his sister's place, Kazar Momeni's apartment at the Millennium Towers. And then Bob travels to Kazar's place at the Millennium Towers at about 12:35. And then surveillance footage shows that he was there for roughly 80 minutes. And at 2:03 a.m., this is now April 4th, Bob and Nema Momeni, the gentleman who was arrested for his murder, leave in Nema's car. They actually drive in the opposite direction of the one hotel. So they drive toward Rincon Hill.
Yeah.
And Nema stabs Bob 3 times. They get out of the car. They're chatting for about 5 minutes, or arguing for about, probably not chatting. They're arguing for about 5 minutes. And then Nema stabs Bob 3 times, twice in the chest and once in the hip. And one of the stabs in the chest went through his heart, or into his heart. And so it appears that this act was caught on camera, but it was grainier images, so more difficult to identify who the murderer was. They found a 4-inch kitchen knife that had been thrown into a parking lot in the proximity of where the murder happened. And then Nema is seen driving off in his car. Mr. Lee, or Bob Lee, then is bleeding and goes to an apartment building. This is, there's a video of this, but I didn't want to link to the video, so I tried to find a still that didn't have some of the more specific details. Exactly. So he is bleeding. He goes to this apartment building, and police and EMT, they all arrive at about 2:35. They take him to Zuckerberg Hospital, but he dies ultimately at the hospital. At some point in the evening, Kazar does text Bob and says, "Are you okay? I know Nema came way down hard on you." So it was when they got to Bob's phone and were able to unlock it that they saw the calls and the text from Kazar and Nema. In addition
again,
to
Kazar is
the woman here. If you're
woman.
watching on the left, she's the
Okay.
sister of the suspect, Nema Momeni.
Okay.
So on April 13th, on a Thursday, the San Francisco police arrest Nema Momeni. He had already hired an attorney, and they arrest him at his loft, which is in Emeryville, I think.
Right.
Yeah. I have a visual of it. So they arrest him, and he is...
That's not the picnic scene is not the arrest.
No.
Just keep going.
If you go up,
Is
sorry.
it Albert or Kim? I don't know who's doing it.
Yeah, this is it.
Okay,
So this
there.
is Sam Singer, the gentleman in the doorway. He was right next. He worked right next to Nema Momeni's. That's his orange door. He appears in court on April 14th.
I'm sorry. So Sam is who?
He's just the gentleman in the door. He was interviewed by a lot of news outlets.
So he worked with.
He worked next door to Nema Momeni and had a lot of interaction with him.
So the arrest, though, I thought, was there a picture of the arrest or not?
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
There's no picture of the arrest.
This is them in the court on April 14th, the gathering of
Yes.
Kazar and.
Now, Kazar is married to Dr. Dino
Eliasnia.
Eliasnia. Yeah, he's a very well-known plastic surgeon in the area. So they live together in the Millennium Towers. She doesn't have any social media. Kazar does not have any social media. But the social media that Dr. Dino has, he's very much in love and talks about his wife quite a bit. In the photo below, it's actually from an article from Haute SF Living, I think is the name of the site. It has since been taken down, but the sleuths on Reddit can find anything. And so this is one of the images from an article that was profiling and featuring Dr. Dino.
Okay.
And so a little bit about Bob Lee. He founded CashApp, which was, as I mentioned, owned by Block, formerly Square. There's actually a really interesting post exactly here if you're watching from Jack Dorsey. This is the first transaction from CashApp. So this is Bob sending money to Jack, and at the time you sent it through email. So I wanted to show that. Everyone sort of universally says that Bob was a really, really great guy. He was a father of two. He was an angel investor. He was a serial entrepreneur. He has a blog that has some kind of really interesting personal information from his childhood and his matriculation into college.
Matriculation's a damn. Yeah.
And he invested in a lot of startups that we would know, including SpaceX and Clubhouse. I read somewhere, I have differing information, but I read somewhere that Cash App has roughly 35 million downloads in 2022.
No, it's a
very hot app. And then Mr. Momeni, he's a tech entrepreneur and consultant. Somebody on Reddit had worked with him and said he was a little off, but there was only one person that I saw on the Reddit subthread for San Francisco that had interacted with him. His sister, as I mentioned, moved to the U.S. as a teenager, married Dr. Dino, and has lived with him in the Bay Area.
So let me just understand this, essentially, as we finish up. This guy was killed. Nobody knew who killed him. Mm-hmm. Everybody thought it was a rando who killed him. Mm-hmm. Turns out, it was quickly revealed, as based on the communications on unlocking his phone at the scene, that his communications involved...
What can you tell us about the scene?
That person, Nema Momeni, who was angry with him for some presumed relationship he was having with Nomeni's sister.
Yes.
Even involving drugs, or maybe there was sex. They don't know. Some kind of relationship, right?
Yes.
And that heated exchange led to the stabbing.
Yes, or Nema not believing him, and so there's premeditation because Nema traveled to his sister's apartment, or from her apartment took a 4-inch kitchen blade.
That's what makes it first-degree murder.
Yes, stabbed him.
And then this shot in the court.
This I thought was interesting. So in the court on Friday, Nema, his family is shown there in the audience. This is a court. This is a sketch, obviously, but his family was doing the heart shapes with their hands, and he was doing a heart shape back to them. Now, the judge asked anybody in the court who was doing some of the sketches to not be able to show any identifiable marks or characteristics of Nema. So that's why he's in that. Yeah, great out. I was
wondering why they draw him, if for those who are just listening, they draw his face like those alien sketches of the people who come down, for the people who have had alien encounters. Mm-hmm. He looks kind of like that.
It is a little bizarre. And that was done by Vicky Beringer. It was from Reuters. I'll just mention on the All In podcast, they did talk about some other crimes that happened in San Francisco that same week. I believe in giving context as to why they felt that initially this might have been perpetrated by a homeless person or someone that might have been on drugs or intoxicated. And that included, there was a violent assault against San Francisco Fire Commissioner Don Karamani, who had asked some homeless people that were in the front of his mother's apartment to move because they were intimidating her, and he was beaten with a metal pipe. And also there was discussion of Whole Foods closing its flagship store on Market Street, actually on April. That happened on April 5th, the fire commissioner. And then on April 12th, Whole Foods closing its San Francisco flagship store on Market Street, saying and citing worker safety. That
Right,
there
we
were
have the
needles.
piece
Yeah.
up
So
now.
there were needles and other drug paraphernalia in the bathrooms. And workers were being confronted by homeless people who were in the store. So they actually closed that store. So that was talked about on the All In podcast. I'm not a resident of San Francisco, but this truly is a story that I think on so many levels has devastated the city.
Yeah, I mean, it's devastated the city on one level. I'd suggest it was when those all-in guys jumped to that conclusion, it wasn't completely unreasonable to jump to it for the reasons you said, within the context of violence and an uptick in essentially a sense of anxiety and fear about what might happen in the city. But this murder didn't, for a moment, it made everybody scary. But now when the details come forward, it's like, oh, this was a dispute between people at Millennial Towers. I mean, that's a high-end place. I'm just saying, when you actually put the particulars in, when they're in the light of day, sorry, it doesn't fall into the narrative that San Francisco is this violent place, you can't go anywhere. It's BS. That's an agenda-based scenario.
But all the officials wanted people to apologize. Oh, you should all say you're sorry for, jumping to the conclusion that San Francisco is a violent place. See, we're working to clean it up. Well, you know what? I don't really think an apology is in order, because the fact is everyone jumped to that conclusion because San Francisco is a violent place, because San Francisco's streets are filled with crime, because your car gets broken into every 5 seconds, because you can't walk down the street without being harassed by someone. So you jump to the conclusion because it's an obvious one.
Of course, but I'll only say one thing in defense of San Francisco. It is true. Everything that Kim just said is true. Yeah. Smash and grabs, hassle on the streets, public defecation, public urination, these are all things. But violent crime, and I told you this, we did a whole segment on it.
Right.
Violent crime is down in the city. Okay, right. So the idea somehow that, oh my God, you can't go anywhere, you can't walk down Folsom Street without getting knifed. BS, man, that's not true. Now, please, I don't mean to be too agitated about it, but I want San Francisco to go back to being this jewel that it was, and maybe it'll never get there. But one thing it's got to fight is a reputation, and these the momentum that comes with the sense that you can't walk anywhere in San Francisco without getting knifed. I think that's a scary momentum. I would say you can't park anywhere in San Francisco without getting ripped off.
There you go.
But all right, did I save it? No, not so much. All right.
I don't know. I've not lived in San Francisco. I'm simply discussing some of the aspects.
No,
I'm
not. I know you're. It's not.
But I told you the story of one of the tech executives from All In went into San Francisco, parked his car outside of a restaurant, made the joke with his friend that his car is going to get broken into, went into dinner, came out, and the car was broken into.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm telling you, you can't. That is, every time I park my car in the city, I'm thinking, do I want to park it under the light, not as far into the light? Do I want to park in? It's awful. It really is awful.
I want to just leave it unlocked so that they don't smash the window.
Right. Do I want to put a sign on here saying there's nothing inside? Right. It really is. No, it's effed up. Don't get me wrong. But I just don't like the rep that rapes and murders occur on every street corner. That's just not true. But maybe I'm splitting hairs here. Courtney, we appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Oh, thanks. I appreciate you having me and letting me talk about this case that's happened and is a big part of the news cycle. As of Monday of last week, when we do Murder Mystery Monday, they did not have a suspect. So this happened on Thursday and Friday of last week.
It's very topical. I appreciate you coming in. There's a certain darkness in the work that you do because you deal with murder, of course, but you emanate a certain light, and it's quite special.
Well,
Courtney, thank you. All right.
Mark's Murder Mystery Monday on the Mark Thompson Show.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.